Writing a second draft, pitfalls and how to overcome them, hopefully. As you might have experienced yourself, writing the second draft isn't really comparable to writing the initial story. At least it isn't for me, given that conform my approach, my first draft is incoherent, long and full of mistakes. Stuff I vow to fix in my second draft. To then tackle the exact wording and focusing on the details later on. Because that's where the devil is in, so the saying goes. I still stand by this approach, but I must confess my progress has been very slow. Maybe I'm not the best person to give you advice because of this. Or maybe this makes me the perfect guy for the job. Because the upcoming tips might just be applicable to you, dealing with a similar issue. Not much use in advice from writers who tell you, just schedule 4 hours of writing a day and do it. Despite the lack of recent progress, my approach remains. 1. Getting a story on paper in a first draft. A thing I've managed last year. 2. Fix the logic and structure of your story in a second draft. Streamline your story, make it logical, kill your darlings, and most important, focus on keeping the attention of the reader. 3. Fix the exact wording, placements of hints, flash out setups and payoffs, and focus on grammar. I did manage to get phase 1 done. My aim for this year was to tackle step 2, getting a second draft. Something in which I failed. I experienced a couple of pitfalls and looked at solutions. Let's get to them. First pitfall. Trying to accomplish a lot of progress in ground sessions. A pitfall I managed to avoid in the first draft. You don't become more efficient by working longer on a draft, in my experience. The reason I say this isn't because of the sessions itself. They can be great. Especially when you utilize the Pomodoro technique. Work from a fixed working location. While making sure you create the feeling of you not working alone. By, for example, setting up a video study with me. Or even better, go to your local library and work from there. Additionally, don't connect to the Wi-Fi with your laptop there, avoid those temptations. The reason working in big sessions became a pitfall for me was because of statistics, more specific probability calculation. Writing a second draft requires focus, energy and motivation. Something which is not always present. When I plan big sessions weekly and on those days my motivation isn't really there, I don't get much done. Something which becomes more apparent when you take diminishing returns into account. This approach for me at least resulted in little progress, or even worse, a complete lack of writing. If I didn't feel like writing that day, which was increased by the challenge of writing the second draft, or something came up on my fixed writing day, I postponed my writing for that week. Internally I rationalized it as something that was out of my control. I will change my approach and will start daily writing again. So that overall, the chance of me making progress will increase. Habit forming will once again set me up for slow, but steady progress. Second pitfall. Reading instead of writing. My first solution doesn't take care of my second pitfall, which is reading instead of writing, something I combine with my urge to perfectionate. I haven't been able to go beyond my first couple of chapters. This is quite specific to my second draft, in which I have the goal to structure and in a sense perfectionate. Here I looked for help in the book Story, by Robert McKee. In his book Robert talks about structure as a sequence of events. He breaks up the overall story in tiny parts. A concept I in theory understand but need to incorporate in my way of work. So based on this I started to make cards. By folding a piece of paper into 8 sections you can start noting down your events. It has to be brief since you don't have much space. Here you note down the major things that happen and the changes that result from it. It's a tricky approach and I have abandoned it once before. But I think it's a good way to get a grasp on the overarching themes and storylines. The downside is only when you complete it you will see the benefit from it. Then it no longer is a not so elegant set of events without any subtleties. At least that is my hope. I think you can then start to arrange the events, setting up plots. I hope it will also help with executing the principle of killing your darlings, aka throwing away or rescheduling the cards. It's a blunt approach, but I think that's a good thing. Third pitfall. Doubt. The third pitfall is doubt. It's ever present. But the further you get or commit to a story, the more prevalent it becomes. The more I work on the same story, the more I think it's full of cliches. People won't find it interesting. It's even arrogant to assume I have something to tell. The themes of my story will be overblown and not land. Stand being bad, I need to remind myself of this often. Somewhere I still want to create that story that stands out. That will be different than all the others, will be personal and therefore deep. However, I must let go of these expectations. My story will overlap themes, settings and other stuff seen before. But that doesn't mean it's not worth telling. It will be its own thing, by its very definition. Deep down I still believe this story is worthwhile. So let me continue. Let us continue. I'm convinced your story is worthwhile too.